Dr. Elena Voss had spent 15 years studying black holes from the safety of Earth-based telescopes and theoretical models. She had published 43 papers on gravitational physics, delivered lectures at every major university on 3 continents, and debated the finer points of event horizon mechanics with Nobel laureates. She never imagined she would experience one firsthand. But here she was, strapped into the observation pod of the research vessel Prometheus, watching her life's work transform from abstract mathematics into terrifying reality. The mission had started 6 months ago with such promise and excitement. The International Space Consortium had approved humanity's most ambitious project yet, sending a crewed vessel to study Sagittarius A*, the supermassive black hole lurking at the center of the Milky Way, for a million times the mass of our Sun. Elena had been chosen as chief astrophysicist, alongside Commander Michael Chen, a veteran of 3 deep space missions, engineer Patricia Okonkwo, whose brilliance with quantum systems was legendary, and pilot James Rodriguez, who could fly anything humanity had ever built. They were supposed to maintain a safe distance of several astronomical units, gathering data that would revolutionize physics and change humanity's understanding of the universe. They were supposed to return home as heroes, their names written in history books alongside Einstein and Hawking. Everything changed when the gravitational anomaly struck without warning. Elena remembered the moment with crystal clarity. Every detail burned into her memory. She had been reviewing spectroscopic data in her quarters, sipping lukewarm coffee from a magnetic cup, when the ship's alarm screamed to life. The sound cut to the vessel like a knife, urgent and terrifying. The anomaly, a rogue stellar remnant they hadn't detected, a neutron star fragment moving at impossible speeds, collided with their propulsion system, sending the Prometheus spinning toward the event horizon like a leaf caught in a hurricane. James fought the controls desperately, his fingers flying across the interface, trying every trick he had learned in 20 years of piloting. But the mathematics were merciless. The numbers didn't lie. They had crossed the point of no return, past the boundary where escape velocity exceeded the speed of light. Now, 3 hours later, Elena floated in her observation pod, watching the universe transform around her in ways that defied description. The others were in their own pods, separated by design to maximize data collection across different positions and trajectories. They could still communicate through quantum-entangled channels that would work even past the event horizon, but each would experience this journey alone, each bearing witness to infinity from their own unique perspective. "Elena, are you seeing this?" Michael's voice crackled through her headset, tight with controlled fear, but still maintaining that commander's discipline that had kept them together through 6 months in deep space. She was seeing it. The black hole dominated her viewport, but it looked nothing like the simple dark circle she had shown in countless lectures and documentaries. The accretion disk, a swirling maelstrom of superheated matter spanning millions of kilometers, blazed with colors that shouldn't exist together, colors that violated every principle of physics she thought she understood. Blues merged with reds in impossible gradients. Yellows twisted into purples without passing through green. The light didn't just shine. It twisted, bending around the black hole's gravity in ways that made her eyes water, and her brain struggled to process the images. "The gravitational lensing is more extreme than our models predicted," Elena reported, forcing her scientist mind to override her terror, clinging to observation as a lifeline. "I'm seeing stars behind the black hole appearing in multiple positions simultaneously. The light is taking different paths around it, creating multiple images of the same object. The math said this would happen, but seeing it is something else entirely." "How much time do we have?" Patricia asked. Her voice remained steady, professional. But Elena heard the tremor beneath the words, the fear that no training could fully suppress. Elena checked her instruments, though she already knew the answer from the calculations she had run and rerun a dozen times. "At our current velocity and trajectory, we'll cross the event horizon in approximately 47 minutes. After that..." She didn't finish. They all knew. After that, not even light could escape. After that, they would be erased from the universe's story, cut off from everything and everyone they had ever known. "Then we have 47 minutes to make history," James said quietly, and Elena heard the smile in his voice, that pilot's bravado that covered deeper emotions. Let's give them something to remember us by. Let's make sure every kid who dreams of flying among the stars knows what we found here. Elena felt tears prick her eyes, but she blinked them away furiously. James was right. Their lives were forfeit, but their data could live forever. The pods are designed to transmit information continuously back to the relay satellites positioned safely outside the black hole's influence, anchored in stable orbits light years away. Everything they saw, every measurement they took, every sensor reading and spectroscopic analysis would reach Earth eventually. Their deaths would advance human knowledge by centuries. Children not yet born would study what they discovered here. Small comfort, but comfort nonetheless. She turned her attention back to the viewport, and her breath caught in her throat. The universe was beginning to change in earnest now, reality itself becoming fluid and strange. Behind her, the stars appeared normal at first glance, though they seemed to be bunching together, clustering toward a single point like moths drawn to a flame. But ahead, around the black hole, reality itself was tearing at the seams. The accretion disk no longer looked like a simple ring or torus. Gravity was so intense here that she could see the disk from multiple angles simultaneously. The top, the bottom, the far side, all visible at once, wrapped around a sphere of darkness like a fevered dream painted by an artist who had never seen normal geometry. Light from the disk spiraled inward, drawing tighter and tighter circles before vanishing at the event horizon like water going down a drain, but infinitely more violent and beautiful. "I'm seeing time dilation effects on the accretion matter," Patricia reported, wonder breaking through her fear. "Material on the inner edge of the disk is moving at different speeds depending on my viewing angle. Particles closer to the event horizon appear to be moving in slow motion, while particles further out move at normal speeds. Einstein was right, but seeing it, actually witnessing time itself moving at different rates, is something else entirely." Elena knew what Patricia meant. According to relativity, time passed differently in strong gravitational fields. From their perspective, matter falling into black hole ahead of them appeared to slow down, taking forever to actually cross the event horizon, as though it was fighting against some invisible barrier. But for that matter, time passed normally. The same would be true for them. To the universe outside, they would appear to freeze at the event horizon, never quite crossing it. Their images slowly redshifting into invisibility over billions of years. But they would experience no such pause. For them, the crossing would be quick, inevitable, final. 32 minutes, Michael announced, his voice taking on the cadence of a countdown. The black hole was growing. Or rather, they were falling closer, and its apparent size was increasing with every passing second. It now filled half her viewport, a sphere of absolute darkness surrounded by its corona of tortured light, like some cosmic eye staring back at her. Elena activated every sensor in her pod, capturing data at the maximum rate the systems could handle. Temperature readings, gravitational measurements, spectroscopic analysis across every wavelength from radio to gamma rays, visual recordings with every camera. This data was invaluable. This data was everything. This data was their legacy. She thought of her daughter, Sophia, back on Earth, 10 years old, brilliant and curious, already showing signs of her mother's passion for science and the stars. Elena had recorded a message before the mission, to be delivered if she didn't return, stored in a vault at Mission Control. "Follow your curiosity," she had said in the recording, trying not to cry, trying to be strong. "The universe is vast and strange and beautiful, and it's waiting for people like you to understand it. Don't be afraid of the unknown. The unknown is where all the answers hide." She wished she could tell Sophia one more thing, that even at the end, even falling into oblivion, the universe remained beautiful, that wonder never stopped, not even at the edge of forever. 25 minutes. The distortions were intensifying with every kilometer they fell. The stars behind them had compressed into a smaller and smaller area, like looking at the cosmos through a shrinking tunnel. Meanwhile, the darkness ahead expanded, consumed everything, a hungry void that wanted to swallow reality itself. The accretion disk's light was shifting, colors becoming deeper, more saturated, more intense. She was witnessing cosmic Doppler shift. The light ahead was blue shifting, as they fell toward an appreciable fraction of light speed, while the light behind redshifted toward the infrared and beyond. "I'm detecting gravitational waves," Patricia announced, wonder completely overtaking fear now. "We're close enough to the event horizon that space-time oscillations are measurable. The black hole itself is producing detectable waves just from its rotation. I'm seeing patterns in the fabric of reality, ripples in space-time that match our theoretical predictions perfectly. This is incredible." Elena checked her own instruments and confirmed the readings. They were swimming in curved space-time now, approaching the point where geometry itself became meaningless, where the rules that govern the rest of the universe broke down completely. The equations she had spent her life studying were proving accurate, but the reality was so much more visceral than mathematics on a page, so much more real than graphs and simulations. 20 minutes. A new phenomenon appeared, something she had predicted but never dared hope to see. Elena watched in fascination as the darkness ahead began to sparkle, not with light exactly, but with its absence. Tiny fluctuations in the event horizon's position, quantum effects made visible by extreme gravity. Virtual particles popped in and out of existence at the boundary, matter and antimatter pairs separating before they could annihilate, creating Hawking radiation made manifest. She was seeing the black hole evaporate, one particle at a time, though it would take longer than the age of the universe for a black hole this massive to completely dissolve into nothing. "The temperature outside our pods is increasing," James reported calmly. "The accretion disk radiation is getting intense. Hull temperature rising steadily." Elena felt it too. Despite the pod's advanced shielding, despite the thermal regulators working at maximum capacity, she could sense the heat growing. They were passing through layers of the accretion disk now, threading between streams of superheated plasma, moving at relativistic speeds. Her pod's external cameras showed material flowing past at speeds that approached light itself, glowing white-hot, temperatures reaching millions of degrees. In another context, it would have killed him instantly, vaporized him in microseconds. Here, falling into a black hole, it was just another sight on the journey down, just another data point to record. 15 minutes. Michael's voice came through, softer now, more personal. "I want you all to know it's been an honor serving with you. We chose to push the boundaries of human knowledge. We succeeded beyond our wildest dreams. Whatever comes next, whatever awaits us past that horizon, we did something that mattered. We answered a question humanity has asked for centuries. We looked into the abyss, and we're going to tell everyone what we saw." "Hear, hear," James replied, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you," Patricia added, "for everything, for believing in this mission, for trusting each other, for making these last 6 months the best of my life." Elena swallowed hard, fighting back tears that refused to be contained anymore. "Thank you all, for making me believe that people could work together for something greater than themselves, for showing me that humanity at its best is capable of anything, for being my family out here among the stars." The darkness was nearly complete now. The stars behind it compressed into a tiny, brilliant ring. The Einstein ring, light from the entire universe behind them, squeezed into a circle by the black hole's gravity, like looking through a cosmic keyhole. Everything ahead was black, utterly black, the kind of darkness that didn't just block light but consumed it, devoured it, erased it from existence. 12 minutes. Elena checked her instruments one final time. All systems functioning perfectly. All data streams transmitting without error. Whatever happened next, whatever transformation awaited them beyond the point of no return, Earth would know. Humanity would learn. Future generations would stand on their shoulders, using their data to reach even further into the unknown. She thought about what awaited them past the event horizon. Theory said the tidal forces would intensify until they were torn apart at the atomic level, stretched into a stream of particles in a process astrophysicists called spaghettification. But theory also said that for a supermassive black hole like this one, the event horizon itself would be gentle, almost imperceptible. They might not even notice when they crossed it. The killing forces would come later, deeper in, where the gravity gradient became too steep for anything to survive, where the difference in gravitational pull between your head and feet became infinite. 10 minutes. The Einstein ring behind them was narrowing, brightening, becoming almost painful to look at. The universe was literally shrinking from her perspective, all of reality compressing into an ever smaller circle. She could see every star in the cosmos in that ring, all of human history concentrated in that one band of light, every person who had ever lived, everything that had ever mattered, every laugh and tear and triumph and tragedy, reduced to a point of brilliant, defiant light. 8 minutes. The darkness ahead was absolute now, not black like paint or ink or the night sky, but the complete absence of anything. She was staring at the edge of space itself, the boundary beyond which not even the concept of position had meaning, where the map of the universe simply ended with a warning. Here be dragons. Here be the unknowable. 7 minutes. Her heart was pounding, hammering against her ribs like it wanted to escape, but her hands remained steady on her instruments. She was a scientist to the end. She would observe, record, and transmit. That was her purpose. That was her gift to humanity. That was how she would live forever. 6 minutes. The universe behind them was now a brilliant point, blazing with the light of a trillion stars. Every photon that had ever been emitted in the visible universe compressed into a ring so bright it should have been impossible to see. Everything ahead was void. She could feel the gravity now, truly feel it, pulling at every atom of her body with impossible strength. The pod's internal compensators were failing, unable to counteract the tidal forces that were beginning to assert themselves. 5 minutes. Patricia's voice broke through the tension, singing softly. Elena recognized it. A lullaby, something from Patricia's Nigerian childhood. Her grandmother's voice carried across light years and decades. The melody was haunting, beautiful, defiant. A song about stars and children, and dreams that never die. James joined in, his tenor voice harmonizing with Patricia's alto. Then Michael added his bass, and the song became something more than music. It became a prayer, a declaration, a refusal to go quietly into that good night. Elena added her voice, though she didn't know the words. It didn't matter. She hummed the melody, felt it resonate in her chest, felt it connect her to her crew, to humanity, to every person who had ever sung in the face of fear. For minutes, the light behind them began to redshift, turning orange, then red, then infrared. The universe was moving away from them in wavelength, as though it couldn't bear to watch what came next, as though it was averting its eyes from their fate. 3 minutes. The singing continued, stronger now, defiant now. They sang for every human who had ever looked up at the stars and wondered. They sang for every child who dreamed of flying. They sang for every scientist who sought truth in darkness. They sang for Sophia and for all the children of Earth. 2 minutes. Elena took a deep breath, filling her lungs completely, tasting the recycled air of her pod, tasting life itself. She looked at her instruments one last time, saw them registering measurements that would rewrite physics textbooks. She thought of Sophia, of Earth, of every person who had ever looked up at the stars and wondered what secrets they held. 1 minute. The crossing was gentle, almost anticlimactic. No flash of light, no dramatic sensation, no moment of cosmic significance marked by trumpets or thunder. One moment they were outside, and the next they were inside. The event horizon passed over Elena's pod like a whisper, invisible, inevitable, like crossing an unmarked border in the dead of night. But everything changed. The light behind them, the Einstein ring containing the entire universe, didn't just dim, it froze. From Elena's perspective, still falling, still accelerating toward the singularity, the universe outside appeared to stop. The stars hung motionless. Time itself had given up trying to follow them in. She was watching the universe die, or rather, watching herself become disconnected from its flow of time. "We crossed it," Michael breathed, his voice filled with awe and terror in equal measure. "We're inside. We're actually inside a black hole." Elena checked her instruments, hardly believing they still worked, hardly believing the readings they showed. The pod was intact. She was alive. They all were. Theory had been right. For a supermassive black hole, the event horizon itself wasn't dangerous. It was just a point of no return, a one-way membrane in space-time. The danger lay ahead. Data transmission is still active, Patricia reported, sounding stunned, her scientific mind struggling to process what was happening. The quantum entanglement communication is working. Earth is still receiving our signals. The information is getting out. That made sense. Elena realized through her shock. The quantum entangled particles didn't transmit information faster than light. They just correlated their states instantaneously. Even inside the event horizon, that correlation persisted. Earth would receive their data, time-stamped from before they crossed. But they would receive it. The mission would succeed. Their sacrifice would not be in vain. How long until... James didn't finish the question, but they all knew what he was asking. Elena ran the calculations, her fingers moving automatically across her interface. The tidal forces will become lethal in approximately 8 minutes. Maybe less. The gravity gradient is steeper than our model predicted. 8 minutes. They had 8 minutes of life left. 8 minutes to observe the impossible. To see what no human had ever seen. To bear witness to the interior of a black hole. She looked around her pod, at the instruments still faithfully recording, at the lights still glowing, at the air still circulating. Everything seemed so normal, so ordinary, but outside, reality itself had become something new, something strange, something that perhaps didn't exist anywhere else in the cosmos. She looked back at the viewport. The universe behind them had vanished. Not dimmed, not redshifted into invisibility, vanished completely. The event horizon from the inside was opaque. No light from outside could reach them now. They were sealed in a bubble of space-time, falling forever toward the singularity, cut off from everything they had ever known. But ahead was something she hadn't expected, something no theory had predicted. The interior of the black hole glowed, not with light exactly, but with something else, something that had no name in human language. Gravitational energy manifesting as visible radiation. The curvature of space-time was so extreme here that virtual particles constantly popped into existence, lived their brief quantum lives measured in fractions of a second, and died, releasing flashes of energy. The singularity ahead, still hidden, still distant, still drawing them inexorably forward, was surrounded by a swirling aurora of these quantum effects. "It's beautiful," Patricia whispered, her voice filled with wonder. It was, against all logic, against all expectation, against everything they believed about black holes. The heart of darkness was filled with light, not the light of stars or fire, but something stranger, something that existed only here, in this impossible place where physics broke down and rebuilt itself in new forms. Elena watched the colors shift and dance, blues and greens and purples, and colors she had no names for, colors that perhaps didn't exist anywhere else in the universe, colors that human eyes were never meant to see. She was seeing quantum mechanics and general relativity colliding, producing effects that theory could predict but no one had witnessed, effects that transformed mathematics into visual poetry. 7 minutes, Michael said quietly, his voice steady despite the trembling Elena could hear beneath it. The aurora was intensifying as they fell deeper, getting brighter, more complex. Elena could see structure in it now. Patterns, almost like the magnetic field lines around a star, but made of pure space-time curvature. The singularity was organized in a vacuum around it, creating a geometry all its own, imposing order on quantum chaos. Her instruments were going wild, recording phenomena she would need decades to analyze, decades she would never have. The temperature was rising again, not from friction or radiation this time, but from compression of space-time itself. She was approaching infinite curvature, where all the mass that had ever fallen into this black hole waited, crushed to an infinitesimal point smaller than an atom, denser than anything that should exist. 6 minutes. She could feel it now. The tidal forces beginning to pull at her body in earnest. Her feet, slightly closer to the singularity than her head, felt heavier. The sensation was subtle but growing with each passing second. Soon it would become uncomfortable, then painful, then unsurvivable. The gradient was becoming too steep. 5 minutes remaining, Elena said, her voice surprisingly calm. "I want to say something," James announced. "For the record, for whoever listens to these transmissions 50 years from now, or 100 or 1,000, go ahead, Elena encouraged, grateful for his voice, for the human connection that kept her anchored. "We came here to learn." James said, his words deliberate, measured. "That's what humans do. That's what makes us special in this vast, uncaring universe. We see a mystery, and we can't help ourselves. We have to understand it, even when it's dangerous. Especially when it's dangerous. That drive, that curiosity, it's what makes us human. And if anyone ever wonders whether it's worth it, whether knowledge is worth the cost, whether understanding is worth sacrifice, tell them yes. Tell them we went into darkness and found light. Tell them we were scared, but we looked anyway. Tell them we lived as humans, curious until the very end. Tell them we chose this." "Beautiful," Patricia said, her voice breaking. "I second all of that. And I want to add, tell them we weren't alone. Tell them we faced the infinite together. Tell them that even at the end of everything, we still had each other." "As do I," Michael added. "Tell them that humans can be brave. Tell them that when it mattered most, we didn't turn away. We looked into the eye of the cosmos, and we didn't blink." Elena felt tears on her cheeks now, floating in the pod's microgravity like tiny diamonds, catching the strange light from outside. "For Sophia," she said, her voice thick with emotion, "for every child who looks up at the stars and dreams of touching them, this is what we found. This is where curiosity leads. Don't be afraid to follow it. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to seek answers, even when they hide in darkness. The universe wants to be understood. It's waiting for you. For minutes." The tidal forces were unmistakable now, no longer subtle, no longer ignorable. Elena's spine was stretching, her body elongating slightly. It didn't hurt yet, but she knew it would soon. The gradient was becoming too steep, the difference in gravity between her head and feet too great for her biological structure to bear. Her cells were being pulled in different directions, her molecules straining against bonds that had held them together for 43 years. The aurora around the singularity was blinding now, a maelstrom of quantum fire that pulsed and swirled in patterns that almost seemed intelligent. She could see the singularity itself, or rather, she could see where it had to be, a point where all the light and energy spiraled inward and disappeared. It was smaller than an atom, yet contained millions of solar masses. Space-time didn't just curve there. It broke, shattered, ceased to exist in any meaningful way. 3 minutes. The pain started, sharp and sudden. A pulling sensation, like being stretched on a medieval rack. But from the inside out, Elena gasped, then forced herself to breathe steadily, maintaining control through discipline and will. She would observe to the end. She would record to the end. That was her purpose. That was her gift. That was her immortality. Her hands trembled as she made final adjustments to her instruments, ensuring maximum data capture rate. Every sensor was running at full capacity, pushing the limits of what the pod systems could handle. The quantum entangled communicators were transmitting continuously, sending an unbroken stream of information back to relay satellites, back to Earth, back to humanity. 2 minutes. Her vision was beginning to blur, her body struggling against forces it was never designed to withstand, forces that evolution could never have prepared her for. But she kept her eyes on the instruments, kept her mind focused on the data, clinging to science like a life raft in a storm of chaos. Gravitational readings off the scale, space-time curvature approaching infinity, the barrier between matter and energy dissolving, time itself becoming a direction rather than a dimension. 90 seconds. The singing started again, Patricia's lullaby, defiant and beautiful, a sound that didn't belong in this place but existed anyway. Elena joined in, her voice cracking with pain and wonder. James added his voice, then Michael, for humans singing together the edge of forever, refusing to be silent, refusing to accept oblivion without protest. 1 minute. The universe was compressing, not the universe outside. That was gone, sealed away beyond the event horizon, continuing its expansion in a reality Elena could no longer access. But her universe, the bubble of space-time she existed in, was shrinking, falling in on itself, approaching the final singularity that awaited all matter in this place. 45 seconds. The singularity filled her vision, a point that was somehow everywhere and nowhere simultaneously, the alpha and omega of space-time, the beginning and end of all things. It was impossible and inevitable, impossible to comprehend, but impossible to deny. Every trajectory led there. Every path ended there. 30 seconds. She thought of Sophia one last time, pictured her daughter's face, her bright eyes, her curious smile. She imagined Sophia grown, a scientist in her own right, studying the data Elena was sending back, learning from her mother's sacrifice, standing on her shoulders to reach even further. Elena smiled through the pain, smiled through the fear, smiled because she had lived a life that mattered. 20 seconds. The tidal forces peaked, becoming unbearable. Elena's body began to come apart, atoms separating, molecular bonds breaking, the structure that made her human beginning to dissolve. But her consciousness held for one more moment, just long enough to see light, not the quantum aurora, something else, something from beyond the singularity, as though there was another side to this infinite curve in space-time, another universe perhaps, another reality where different laws held sway. 10 seconds. The pain became transcendent, beyond suffering, beyond sensation, becoming something almost like ecstasy. She was dissolving, becoming one with the fabric of space-time itself, her atoms stretching into a stream of particles, falling forever toward the central point. 5. Her last thought was wonder, pure and crystalline and perfect. 3. Her last emotion was joy, the joy of discovery, the joy of understanding, the joy of having lived fully. 2. Her last sensation was light, infinite and eternal. 1. And then the data pods transmitted their final measurements, quantum entangled signals, carrying information across the boundary of forever. The stream continued for several seconds after Elena's consciousness ended, capturing the final moments, recording the geometry of space-time at infinite curvature, sending back data that contradicted and confirmed and transcended a century of theoretical physics. On Earth, decades later, when the signals finally reached human receivers and the data was finally decoded and analyzed, scientists would weep at the beauty of it. They would see what Elena saw. They would understand what she understood. They would build monuments to her courage and name awards after her sacrifice. But more importantly, they would learn. They would learn that at the heart of darkness, there is light. They would learn that curiosity is worth any cost. They would learn that humanity's reach should always exceed its grasp. They would learn that we are, forever and always, explorers of the infinite unknown. And they would continue to work, pushing further, asking harder questions, seeking answers in places even more dangerous and strange. Because that's what humans do. That's what Elena taught them. That's what 4 brave souls proved at the edge of forever. That we are not content to wonder. We must know, no matter the cost.